Hello, everybody. We're back again today here with Sam St. John, and we are concluding our studio albums from the Beatles. Today's Let It Be, 1970. Even though it was recorded, there it is, even though it was recorded prior to Abbey Road, they released it later. So technically, this is the last of the studio albums. It's been revitalized lately with the Peter Jackson documentary on Disney Plus, 8 hours worth of great footage that he dug into the archives and sort of pieced things together to give you a different perspective on what was really going on at that time, and thoroughly enjoyable. You get an insight into all four of the Beatles and the hangers-on and all the guys behind the scenes. It's really, really well done. I recommend anybody that hasn't seen it, check it out. These guys were going through in different directions in their lives, really, with their personal lives, the relationships, the music. Some of them wanted to go on their own and branch out, and others weren't happy with their position in the band, and there's drugs involved and this and that. So it was just a natural end of things. They were in their late 20s, approaching 30, and it was time to take on a new challenge. And then basically that's what they all did. We hate to see them go because they nothing like the Beatles ever again. So Sam, comments before we dig in? There's 12 songs, by the way. We're going to go 12 through 1 in reverse order.
Yeah, it's an album that's gained a lot more praise, I'd say, in the last 3 or 4 months. Just really probably within the last year, really, when the whole box set came out, the Giles Martin remix came out last year, leading up to the movie, which was preceded by their books that came out. I know there was a big book that came out like a Target and Barnes and Noble about the Get Back film, and all the interviews. Paul and Ringo were doing press interviews and talking about the movie, and it's really gained a lot of praise. When prior to the last few months, this was considered on the lower tier, I would say, for a lot of Beatles fans, just simply because, again, it's 12 tracks, really 10 true tracks. There are 2 little bits on here that were just fragments of longer jam sessions, and just kind of hastily put together. These were scraps that they made before Abbey Road, and then after Abbey Road came out, they had enough material to kind of throw it to Phil Spector to finish up a few tracks. Of course, George Martin and Glenn Johns had a hand in it as well during the original sessions. So it had a lot of hands in the mix, which went against the Beatles' kind of less is more approach. Even though they were sophisticated in the studio, they almost always relied on the same people. And it wasn't until this album came out, which came out really after the Beatles were done.
Right.
And everything but, contractual agreements. I think the last song that they worked on was I Be Mine. They did some final overdubs, and that was without John. So they were done as a band, really, when this had come out. It still gained them 3 more #1 hits with Let It Be, Long and Winding Road, and Get Back. So yeah, even after the Beatles were becoming a memory, and they were all doing their own solo albums, Let It Be was still topping the charts. So it's a good album. It's definitely earned its spot higher up in my list of Beatles album rankings.
Yeah, I agree. I had, last time I did a Beatles ranking, I think I had it 10th, but it might climb a little. The documentary really had a big impact on me, on how hard, especially Paul, was working on a lot of these songs, trying to get the best out of the rest of the guys. And
it's amazing because, again, you've got, well, let's just, for all intents and purposes, just call this a 10-track album. They had another 20 tracks or so that they were working on. We saw, at least almost half of Abbey Road was, right.
Yep.
They were working on that. They had just finished the White Album not too long before that, which was a 2-disc record.
Sure.
And then, of course, they also had stuff that became, solo material, like Child of Nature and All Things Must Pass and Junk and Teddy Boy. All that stuff was coming out during these sessions. It's incredible because, they rushed this album together in just a few weeks, the bulk of this material, and they had all that other stuff that went on to the Imagine album, or to the Plastic Ono Band, the right. McCartney 1, All Things Must Pass. it's incredible how much material they were still pumping out when they were starting to fizzle out.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive in. 12 through 1. I think we know what 12 and 11 are going to be, but you never know. You're up first.
Never know. We said that with Her Majesty too, and Her Majesty made it. Well, number 12 for me is Dig It. It's part of a much longer jam that I don't think the whole thing has ever truly been released professionally. It's been bootlegged and things like that, but we have a longer version of it, which is even better on the Get Back, the Let It Be box set that came out last year.
Yeah,
but it's John making up stuff. You have Billy Preston on the organ.
Yeah,
John, just listing off things that he sees in the news. Like a Rolling Stone, like the FBI, like and then he ends up with just going dig it, dig it, dig it.
Yeah, I don't.
And it kind of it's an intro into the song Let It Be, because you kind of have John saying that was Can You Dig It by Georgie Wood, and now we'd like to do Hark the Angels Come, and then it goes into Let It Be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat, and I don't dislike it, but it doesn't. It's kind of weird because the Beatles have a lot, as we know by all the box sets that have come out. They did a lot of goofing off in the studios, especially especially in their later years after Brian Epstein passed away, and they weren't as formulated. So it's funny that they just threw in at random 2 little jams on this album. But out of all the songs on here, Dig It is number 12.
That's what I have too. I have it at number 12. I don't care for it. You just throw it, like you mentioned, the FBI, and it's got the CIA and BB King and Doris Day and all these little shout outs. Really, I don't know what the heck it was. A 51-second jam session. I don't care for it. So the Beatles are better than that in my book. So it's my last number 12.
Yeah, and again, it's not a true song. Again, we've heard on the box sets they make up songs all the time, which is neat. It's kind of fun because they're probably doing this while they're waiting for sound equipment to be.
I'm sure they were
put together, so they didn't sing that with the intention of that's going to go on an album, And it just again, it was hastily put together just because the Beatles were becoming, dissolved. So,
right.
Number 11 is Maggie May. It's an old Liverpudlian folk song that they knew as boys. I know the Quarrymen sang the true version of it back in the late 50s, and it was one that the Beatles grew up on skiffle music, and this was an old skiffle tune that was done by a lot of their heroes locally, and I think it would be kind of neat if it was all put to one big thing, kind of showing the Beatles like as the Quarrymen from years, like a decade before.
Right.
It's kind of neat. John and Paul are both singing. I always thought that Ringo was singing on this too, but it's just John and Paul. And Paul's kind of got that big booming voice that he does. And what was always neat about this song to me too was on the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie that came out, Paul is in the movie. Paul McCartney has a cameo in the movie as Jack Sparrow's uncle, and he's in a jail cell, and Jack is being led to a cell, and you hear Paul singing Maggie May from his cell, because that would have been a song maybe that the pirates would have sung in the 1800s. So I think that was kind of neat. But yeah, it's the second shortest Beatles song, and I prefer it just a little bit more than Dig It.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have it at number 11, just 40 seconds of goofing off, clowning around, whatever you want to say. And doesn't John have that real heavy brogue or accent going on in there too?
Yeah, they're putting on an accent.
Yeah.
Scouse.
It works in the context of what they're doing, but I don't know. It's just, there's not much to talk about. It's just 40 seconds.
They kind of roll their R's. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like Robin the Home Abounder. It's fun.
You know it better than I do. There we go.
I do sing it though sometimes. Yeah. All right, so now those are out of the way, kind of now into the true songs on the album.
Yeah.
Number 10 for me is Dig a Pony, the John Lennon song. It was a song that he wrote, from what I understand, for Yoko. I think this is one of the songs that made its way from the rooftop concert
Yep.
And that's another thing we failed to mention, that parts of these songs, and people know this, some of these songs were taken from the rooftop session. If you kind of have the false start where it goes boom and you hear John go hold it, and it's really neat to see that on the Get Back documentary, to see these songs there on the rooftop, clean, cool. Cleaner, and great. I love the dual guitar work with the bass. It's
the bass is phenomenal on this song.
And I would love to. I mean, I know that they're planning a more widely, a wider theatrical run of the rooftop concert. I would love to go see this in my local theater just to hear those songs, because from what I understand from the IMAX showings, it's been fantastic, the sound.
Yeah.
So, but Dig a Pony, it's never been a standout for me. Kind of nonsense lyrics, but you have the big chorus, all I want is you, with him and Paul, and again Paul's got that booming voice, and then it's a good solo at the end too. I think the solo is played by John. I'm not 100% sure at the end. John was playing a lot of guitar at this point.
Yeah.
But it's there's a ton of strong tracks on this album, and that's just not one of them for me.
Yeah, I have it number 10 also. So we're 3 for 3 out of the gate. I do like the rooftop performance because you can see them, like you said, exactly what you said, and the bass line with the guitars, that whole thing works well. I don't like the lyrics; they're kind of muddled and nonsensical, but not one that I tend to go back and seek out. If I were like putting together a playlist, I would never include Dig a Pony. It's just not my thing. But in the album, now that I've seen the rooftop scene and them actually working on it in the studio, it's okay. Number 10.
All right, number 9 for me is a George track. I Me Mine is number 9 for me, and I love the song, and it's one of those tracks, one of his spiritual songs. He heard I Me Mine as like I don't know, one of those, I think from one of his Indian readings that he was still into at this point in '69, because again they hadn't been away from India for that long when these songs were being recorded. And again, I mentioned before, we started ranking, that this was the last song that the Beatles worked on, as when all 4 members were still living. Of course, John wasn't at the sessions for the final overdubs, but it's good, a great vocal. George is kind of singing at a higher register, which he doesn't normally do. Kind of like his voice from Piggies the year before, and it's really strong with him and Paul singing the background harmonies. That me mine, and now it's a really heavy song, and it's kind of showing the direction maybe that the Beatles would have gone had they broken into the '70s. I'm kind of thinking I'm thinking between this song and maybe like I Want You, She's So Heavy. Maybe like the first half of the '70s might have been kind of some heavier music from the Beatles. I mean, who knows? But it's number 9 this go around.
I got it at number 9 also.
Wow.
So far, we're seeing this album the same. I like the way it transitions from that like lilting chorus of all through the day, I Me Mine, and then it goes into that ultra heavy jam. It's kind of cool, and I can see the Beatles going in that direction had they stayed together, because the late '60s and in the early '70s, a lot of bands were doing that. So George, I think, is displaying his unhappiness within the band, pointing out John and Paul's egos maybe and self-interest, because he wasn't happy at the share he was getting. So it's like I Me Mine, I Me Mine, I Me Mine, and I can still picture Yoko and John waltzing while George is playing that in the studio. They're like da, 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 da. They're dancing around. I don't know whether that was like throwing it back in his face, or they were just killing time or bored by it or what, or stoned on something, whatever. It could have been any of those things.
All of the above, yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah. All right. Number 8, this is, I guess, the first shocker, so to speak, of the list for me. It's The Long and Winding Road is number 8. It's never been one of my favorite Paul tracks. I know Paul has a lot of ballads, and I mean, obviously on this album, I mean, later on we have Let It Be appear at the end of the album, but it's just never been one that's really jumped out at me. Even listening to the Beatles One album, which was again my first introduction to the Beatles music as a whole, it was never one that I sang. I mean, I know he wrote it, you know, when he was kind of isolated in his home in Scotland, again, right, during one of the many tumultuous moments within the Beatles as a whole. It's a beautiful song. I mean, again, arguably by many the greatest Paul song ever written. You could have a top 10 list of just those songs, top 10 or 20 of the best, you know, songs. But it's a pretty song. I personally, I like the strings on the Let It Be album, which I know were a topic of contention with Paul and Phil Spector. But yeah, it's just never been one of my favorites. So it's number 8.
I like it. I have it quite a bit higher, and I like the strings too. I like the Let It Be Spector version better than the naked version when it came out. That one, even the piano sounds different. The mix is not right, in my opinion. But my number 8 is I've Got a Feeling. I combine Paul and John's song, really. A couple of unfinished songs that blend into one. They both give what they do best, and it's a good song. And it was featured heavily in the documentary. They played it a lot, you know, working on it, and heavily rehearsed and practiced during those sessions. I enjoyed seeing that. And John, you know, part of the lyrics are everybody's had a hard year, and especially John Lennon, because he was getting divorced. He was involved with Yoko, who had a miscarriage. He was involved with heroin, addiction, drug possession, arrest, unhappiness within the Beatles, and just everybody's had a hard year. Everybody, you know how it goes. And the beginning part with Paul, he's again giving that oomph in his voice where I've got a feeling.
R&B, yeah.
R&B style, very soulful. It's a good song, but I put it at number 8 because I like the other 7 just a tad more.
It's also a hard year because John hadn't showered. As
yeah.
we know from the movie.
There you go.
It was harder for the other Beatles, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Between him and Ringo's gas, who knows what that studio smelled like.
Don't even want to go there.
No. I had to. Number 7 for me, again, one of John's masterpieces, so to speak, Across the Universe. I prefer this version much more to the single version that came out for, you know, environmental causes. The single version has like these birds on it, and John's voice is adjusted differently. I like the acoustic nature, the
yeah, it's cool.
I do like the distortion in his voice in this song. You know, obviously you have like the whole, you know, the mantra, you know, the Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's going to change my world, which I know a lot of people, you always see Beatles postings, that's always somebody's tattoo or a poster or something like that. Nothing's going to change my world. That's definitely a John Lennon. That's a John song all day long.
Yeah.
I've always liked it. I mean, I always sing along to it. I think it kind of goes maybe a little bit long at the end with a lot of that mantra stuff, and that's probably why it's kind of middle of the road for me.
Yeah, mine's a little further higher on my list, but I have number 7 at One After 909. Now this is early rock and roll style, written by John when he was much younger, like 10 years younger. And again, they're reverting back to their early days when they got together, jamming, fun, energetic. Move over once, move over twice. Just a good time. And then at the end, he throws in that "Oh Danny Boy" little number, you know, typical John. He can't just let it alone. He's got to add a little 2 cents at the end.
Yeah.
but that's what he does, and they always seem to catch it and put it on the record. So
Yeah.
it's a fun song.
Number six is the second George song for me. It's For You Blue. This song has really grown for me in the last few years.
Yeah.
I think partly there was a commercial that came out a few years ago that starred his son Donnie Harrison. I think it was for denim, like Levi jeans or something, so blue. And he was playing this little 4-string tenor guitar on the slide, and he was singing the song, like sitting on a stool, wearing all denim. And he's got his hair down, kind of like George did in Abbey Road with a mustache, and he sounds just like his dad.
Looks
and I was
just like him too. They're like,
I was like, that's really, oh my goodness. And I was like, that's really a good song. Let me go back and listen to that. So a few years ago, this one would have been lower. But it's just a simple 12-bar blues song.
Yeah.
I love the little jam where George is just having fun, going, "Go, Johnny."
Yep.
It sounds like they did like maybe from like Beatles for Sale, like kind of that kind of fun was on it. And then he's like, "Eleanor James got nothing on this, baby," and he's laughing. It's just a fun song. I love the slide on it.
Yeah.
John's playing the slide guitar, I think, on it, which
really
is cool.
good.
I think he had just learned the slide guitar, and just a really fun, simple track. And that's why I like it, is because of its simplicity.
Yeah, I have it at number 6 also. It's like you stole my notes here. I have everything you just said about the Go Johnny Go and the lap steel guitar, and it's definitely a little bit rootsy, bluesy, of course. It's a love song. I like George's vocal in it. I mean, it's just so honest, and I just simple lyrics. I love you. What's he say here? Because you're sweet and lovely. I love you. And then at the end, I love you more than ever, girl. I do. He has that little whoo. Yeah. And the guitar playing, the acoustic, you can hear every note. He's like picking away at it. They're loud and clear on the mix. That I played that 3 times today because I wanted to. It's one that's grown on me too. I used to discount it. It would have probably been 10 or 9 on my list last year, and it's risen up to number 6. So I like it, and I like the Go Johnny Go thing too, because he's into it, and he's trying to encourage John to play a new instrument and play it well. So good stuff.
Yeah, I love it. All right, number 5 for me, another shocker, especially given that I'm a Paul McCartney fan. It's Let It Be, number 5 for me. And again, I'll say the same thing like I said for Long and Winding Road. It's possibly the greatest Beatles song, to a lot of people. And it's become a mantra for the Beatles. Again, same kind of things. You see it everywhere. Every time Paul McCartney's at an award show, he's going to sing it. It's kind of his song, but probably between that and Yesterday, I would say, that those are the songs that will be in Paul McCartney's legacy, on his tombstone, Let It Be and Yesterday. And Paul's the master of a ballad. Just beautiful song. Is based on a dream that he had where his mom, whose name was Mary, came to him. And you also have because her name's Mary, you have the biblical aspect of it with the Virgin Mary.
Right.
So, and it's got that gospel feel to it. And 2 completely different versions. I mean, you have this version, then you have the single version, which is more distorted, kind of a, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's a little bit more echo in the single version. This one's more straight ahead electric guitar, but love the background vocals with George and John. They sound beautiful on it. And another one that Paul probably didn't like what Phil Spector did to it, but that's the one that became a hit. And again, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably the best song on the album, but just time has taken it a little bit lower for me, just because it's everywhere. And whenever you see Paul these days, you're going to hear him sing Let It Be. So I'll be seeing him sing Let It Be in May. So
good for you. That's good. It's going to be great. My number 5 is 2 of Us. Again, a Paul and John combo, originally titled On Our Way Home. Got the dual lead vocals. I like and this is about Alan Klein and the contract squabbles. two of us, you and me, chasing paper, getting nowhere. There's a little Everly Brothers feel to the harmonies here. Very good at opening with the acoustic guitar to do, and the whistle at the end. I like the whistle at the end.
Yeah.
Sort of off into the sunset kind of thing. And I like that one line too. Two of us wearing raincoats, standing solo in the sun. Like, why are you wearing raincoats in the sun? I mean, did it just get done raining, or what? You can visualize that. But it's a cool lyric. Good song. Made the top 5 for me. So good stuff.
Number 4 is another one that's really made its way up for me. Really since the box set came out, so like within the last few months. I think because just the mix on it sounded so good, and it's One After 909. It's the earliest Beatles song that ever made a professional recorded appearance. John and Paul had written a long time ago, as you mentioned, prior to the Beatles as a Beatlemania band. And I know, like in the movie, which really makes it clear, they're struggling to find material because they're on a deadline, which is, I think originally it was a 2-week deadline and ended up becoming a month, just because production got delayed on the movie that they were trying to work on at Twickenham. And they were having trouble getting material. So they said, let's think of some of those old songs that we wrote when we were teenagers. And so they sing a bunch of songs, including one of my favorites, Fancy Me Chances with You, which is kind of a neat little ditty, but they ended up settling on One After 909. And it's another song that ended up on the rooftop. I love the rooftop version because they're looking at each other, just smiling. And you kind of imagine, like, it was kind of like taking you back to like the Cavern days one last time. And I mean, obviously this song was recorded much earlier. It was recorded in the early 60s. I think it's on the first anthology album. There were some versions of it, but I love it. I think it's so fun. I think Paul started singing it live again, which is really cool. And I don't know. It's a simple song. It's kind of, Johnny Cash could have sung it, or Elvis could have sung it.
Yeah.
It was kind of I think John said it was their version of writing a train song, because train songs were the rage in the late 50s. And so that was their attempt at it. But I love it. I love it to death. As simple as it is.
Yeah, it's a good one. My number 4 is one you had, Across the Universe. I like John's voice on this. It's soft, sort of distorted, but soft. Poetic lyrics. I like some of the lyrics in here. I just want to read a few, because you don't think of John as having incredibly deep lyrics, especially at this time. He's not the same. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. And then he goes into, nothing's going to change my world, and Jai Guru Dejavam, that whole mantra that you mentioned. It's a vibe. It works. I enjoy it. Good stuff.
It's a good showing. All right, the big 3. Number 3 for me is the title of the movie, Get Back.
Yeah.
Just a incredible rock and roll song, and I think it was everybody's favorite part in the movie.
Yeah.
When Paul is just hanging out waiting for John to show up, and he's got Ringo and George like still waking up or coming off of a bender from the night before, and Paul's just on his Hofner bass strumming it like a guitar, and then you can tell immediately that he's trying to get back. He doesn't have any lyrics, he's just humming. And then Ringo starts clapping on his knee, and George starts picking away. And it's just, you're seeing a number 1 hit song come to life right there. Never before seen. It was incredible. Magic. But as the song as itself, I know it was originally going to be a protest song. It ended up just being a kind of a story song. Some people say it was about, a cross-dresser, but whatever you think of the song lyrically, it's just a rock and roll masterpiece. Just the bass is incredible. Paul's vocals are incredible. The harmony with John singing the low harmony, the Get Back, and I love Paul, commanding his vocals, Get Back, Loretta, and then he jumps into it. It's just a great song, and it's always fun when Paul does that one live. So I hope he does it when I see him.
Yeah, I like it a lot. My number 3 is The Long and Winding Road. I'm a sucker for these sentimental, nostalgic songs, and it was their last number 1 song as a group. Wrote this, like you had this, he wrote this in Scotland, finding inspiration and the beauty of Scotland. And there's a real feel of a culmination of something here, the long and winding road, like the end is here, and it sums up, this is going to be it for the group. And I thought at one time it should have been the closer on the album. I don't like the naked version that you showed earlier. The mix is screwed up, the piano, and didn't like it. But I love the lyrics, and it's just somebody waiting for somebody to show up at the door. It's very sentimental, very nostalgic, and it's sad at the same time. It's my kind of song. I like it a lot. So number 3.
All right, number 2 for me is the opener, Two of Us. I love this track so much. I've always loved it. I love playing it on guitar. It's just it's one of the last moments that you see of like a true Lennon McCartney moment. I mean, you have the two of them just as a duet. You're thinking could be about them to an extent.
Yeah.
Just really, really sweet, like sentimental kind of thing. And like you said, the whistle at the end kind of makes it carefree.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's funny is, like, it seems like up until like the recording of it, they hadn't really decided on how they wanted that guitar intro to be. Because like on the Get Back film, it's like down, 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 down. It's kind of like that instead of down, 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 down. And what I love so much about the song too is that there's no bass on the song, that it's George playing the low E string and the A string as the bass, because they were talking, Paul and John wanted to be on acoustic guitars, and they said, well, we need a bass, we need a bass to come in, and they didn't want the overdub. So George is like, if I play guitar, if I play bass, like I couldn't sing it live, like if we were to do it live. And so they ended up settling for him just playing it kind of a lead guitar on the bass strings, which I think makes it. I mean, that fills in perfectly. And I love, they kind of go, we're going home. Do, 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 do,
Yeah,
do.
It's cool.
I love it so much. And it's one that I would love to do, like if I were to play a coffee shop, that'd be a fun duet to do. So I've always loved that song. I think it's a great opener. And even though this album came out, I remember it was recorded prior to Abbey Road, I think that's a kind of a fitting opener for their last album, is Two of Us. It shows that at their heart they were still brothers. So
yeah, I like it. Number 2 for me is Get Back. Love the beginning of the song where it just all of a sudden you're there. And you said a lot of important things about it, how they work, how the song came out of nowhere, really, and they created it in the studio. I love that part of it. My favorite part of the documentary, easily. It's like magic happening, and you're a witness to it. Can you imagine being there when that happened? It's just unbelievable. Can you imagine being Paul McCartney and having that happen?
I know that time it just was caught on film. Who knows how many times that's happened?
That's how a song is born, basically. You start with an idea or a little note or here and there, and it just grows, and it was fantastic. I'm glad that it was caught on film. I think Billy Preston adds a lot to the song too. It's solid. I like his playing and his soulful. He's just into it, when you see him on the roof too. I like the lyrics. Yeah. The lyrics are goofy, JoJo and Loretta, high-heeled shoes and a low-neck sweater. I like all that stuff. It just adds to the flavor of the song. Great one.
Yeah, it's killer.
Yep.
All right, number 1 is another. It's funny. I got kind of the 2 duets from the album. Or 2
I noticed that.
Yeah, number 1 is I've Got a Feeling. I've always thought this was the best track on the album. I loved it when I first heard it. I thought it was just so good. I love the opening guitar, that John's playing, the down 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 down. It's so good. I love the the bridge, all of these years I've been wandering around. And then, all that I've been looking for was somebody who looked like you. And then down, 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 down. John just holds that guitar. And it's really cool that John took on even though he wasn't a leader at this point, he was playing a lot of the lead guitar on this album. And he really is a great guitar player. And it shows that you mentioned it earlier that it was two fragments of two songs that they had. They worked on it to piece it together so that it worked as a whole. And I love when they're singing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just really well done. And I think another pieces of it came from the rooftop. Well, at least the end of it came from the rooftop, where you mentioned him kind of shouting something at the end. But it's just to me it's a fantastic song. I wish that one would have been a hit, but then on the other hand, I might be tired of it because it would be on the radio all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe it came for the best. I think the Beatles did okay. So
I think so too. My number one is the title track, Let It Be. I'm very predictable. I think it's the best song on the album. It's an all-time Beatles song, definitely in my top 10 all-time classic. I love Paul's vocal on it. It's almost gospel in a way, not quite, but he's got a lot of feeling behind his words. And you mentioned the dream sequence about his mother coming to him, and sometimes that's all it takes to create and make a great record. And this is it. This is an incredible. It's got the great solo by George too. Let's not forget that in the middle of the song there. Fantastic. So I had to put it number one just based on my musical preferences. So Get Back was close. I love Get Back.
Yeah, my top four are all interchangeable. Even one after 909 could be my number one at some point. A few years ago, it wouldn't have even been my top five, but it's really worked its way up with that new remix.
Yeah. It was fun. Great album. It's a much better album than I thought like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Seeing that documentary really impressed me.
It makes you wish there was a documentary for every album. Imagine if they did one for like Beatles for sale.
I would love those early Beatles documentaries. They would be fantastic. Just to watch all in sequence, just to see them all and how they grew as songwriters and people, and the haircuts and the women in their lives. That whole look into what was going on, because there's so much to see. That's why they're the Beatles, and nobody else is.
Or will be.
Or will be. I mean, it's been 50 years and nobody's come close.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's the truth. All right, anyway, we're going to wrap this up. Great to have, this is our culmination, but all the studio albums are down the hatch, so to speak, but we're still going to do the Past Masters Volume 1 and 2, and we have some things lined up after that, maybe non-Beatles related, but Sam and I are enjoying working together, so we're going to line up some projects. I hope you guys leave some nice comments, give us some feedback, of course. Subscribe to Sam St. John. He is having a contest at the moment, doing very well with it, added a lot of subscribers and a lot of views to his channel. So check his material out. Subscribe to me as well if you'd like. Love the comments, love the feedback, and we will see you next time with Past Masters Volume 1. Take care, everybody. Bye.